Hello, and welcome to this video looking at the question, is fruit acid forming? My name is Dr. Rick Dina, and my wife, Dr. Karen Dina, and myself are the developers and instructors of the 100-hour Science of Raw Food Nutrition curriculum that we teach several times per year at Living Light in Northern California. We've been raw food vegans for about 25 years each, and we love science. So between that and hearing various things that our Science of Raw Food Nutrition students tell us or ask us about, there is one particular claim that we're going to look at today, and that is fruit acid forming? Many people believe this is the case, and the reason they believe it is they say that sugar is acidic, and when you consume fruit, fruit has sugar. Therefore, fruit is going to be acid forming. And that's how the claim goes, and it's one of those classic examples where a little bit of information taken out of context can often lead to the wrong conclusion. So I'm going to do an experiment here to see what's actually going on. In fact, for the last day and a half, I've been consuming only organic Valencia oranges. And then I have collected my urine for 24 hours to analyze the pH to see if this claim is actually true. So to look at the pH scale just for a moment. A lot of you know this, so some of you don't though. The pH scale goes from 0 to 14, where 7, or right in the middle, is neutral. As we go further below 7, we get more and more acidic. As we go above 7, we get progressively more alkaline, also known as basic. Now our bloodstream, you can see the red line here represents where our bloodstream always needs to be at about 7.4, or just slightly alkaline. And our body has many different mechanisms to keep that pH in a very narrow range, between 7.35 and 7.45. If we start to go out of that range, even the littlest bit, we get into a lot of trouble. If your bloodstream starts to work its way down toward 7, before it even gets there, it's still alkaline, but before it even gets there, it may be 7.1, your body cannot function and you go into a coma or can't function normally. If you start to get too alkaline in your bloodstream and you get up to 7.8 or so, you go into what's called tetany. Your muscles can't relax and you're in a lot of trouble there too. So there are a number of different buffering mechanisms, including, but by no means limited to, what your kidneys decide to excrete in your urine. So if you're starting to get too acidic, one of the things that can happen, your kidneys will start to excrete acidity in your urine to get rid of that stuff so the bloodstream can be slightly alkaline and your urine will be acidic. Same thing if you're too alkaline, if you have too many alkaline elements, your body will excrete more alkalinity. Now the thing is, because we need to stay in such a narrow range, because that is absolutely so critical for all parts of our physiology, for all of the life processes going on in our body, there's a whole bunch of things, like I said, going on, and the pH of our urine can vary from moment to moment. Now, if you just look at your pH at one point in time, you may not get the complete picture. For example, let's say you eat a hamburger. It's pretty well known that the metabolic effects of hamburger are acidic. So you get a bunch of acidic things from the hamburger, that starts to bring your pH down a little bit. Your body will respond by taking alkaline minerals, primarily calcium, the most abundant alkaline mineral in the body, out of your bones to neutralize that acidity to keep us right there at 7.4. Now, a little while later, once you're done metabolizing the hamburger and you don't have more acidity coming in, then your body says, we don't need all this calcium anymore. Because if we're going to get too alkaline, and that wouldn't be good either. And so at that point, typically a couple of hours after you've consumed a hamburger, your urine will look more alkaline because your kidneys will excrete that calcium and the other alkaline elements into your urine. And they call that the alkaline tide. So for example, if you were to eat a hamburger and then check your urine pH a couple hours later, it would look alkaline. And you might mistakenly assume that hamburgers are alkalizing, whereas the fact is they're actually acid forming. So that's why I collected my urine for 24 hours, so we can get the complete picture of what's going on. So starting yesterday morning at 11 o'clock, I sat down and peeled and consumed 6 oranges. 3 hours later, by 2 o'clock, I was getting hungry again. I had 6 more oranges. And then at about 5:30, I ate 6 more. So some of you are good at math. You can see that is 18 oranges that I consumed. Then at 7 p.m., I began collecting 24 hours worth of urine. So in other words, I was 18 oranges into the day before I even started collecting the urine. Because I wanted to make sure nothing from the day or the night before was affecting my urine pH. So we were well into the oranges there. Then I started collecting. And then at 9 p.m., I ate 6 more oranges. So 24 oranges total that day. So then I slept, got up in the morning, put that urine in the collection container. 11 a.m., ate 6 more oranges. Now, by about 2, I was hungry again, similar to yesterday, but I was working on a presentation for the upcoming Woodstock Fruit Festival. And I was really involved and on PubMed and looking up all these research reports and finding different things and just was really involved in it, so I kind of didn't notice how hungry I was. Nevertheless, about 4:30, I ate 6 more oranges. And then by 7 p.m., I finished collecting 24 hours worth of urine. So that was 24 oranges the first day, 12 the second day, 36. And in fact, just for fun for this video, I saved all my 36 orange peels. So I've got about half of this bucket full of orange peels. So that's a lot of oranges. And I ended up with about 2.5 liters worth of urine for 24 hours. We're going to take a little field trip and we're going to see what we find. And once we're done with that, we're going to come on back and I'm going to share some important commentary about what we saw to make sure that we've got everything in perspective and we're not going to take anything out of context. So let's go ahead and go on over to the lab and see what we find. Okay, so here we are over at the lab bench. And what I'm going to do first, I'm going to go ahead and take one of the organic Valencia oranges from the batch. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half. And I'm going to, let's see, get rid of a few of the little seeds there to make things easier. And I'm going to go ahead and squeeze the juice of the orange into this container. So we've got the orange juice itself here, which is what went into me. So again, just as an interesting side note, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of the pH paper. I'm going to get 2 pieces while I'm at it. And then put this little scale back up here so when we zoom in we can compare. And what I'm going to do is I am going to dip this paper right into the orange juice. And what it says to do is dip the paper and then read immediately. So I'm going to put that right here in front of the scale so we can see exactly what's going on. And just so you can all see that, let's go ahead and zoom right in so we can get the details there. So we see the pH scale. The more yellow things are, the more acidic it is. So I think it's pretty safe to say we're in the acid range there. That looks good in yellow, maybe at about 5.8, maybe a little bit lower. It's clearly not green or blue. It's clearly not alkaline. So the orange itself is clearly acidic directly from the orange itself. So now for the big moment. Now we're actually going to measure the pH of my 24-hour urine collection sample. And don't forget, like I mentioned, I ate 18 oranges during the day, then started my sample from 7 p.m. last night until 7 p.m. tonight. And over those 24 hours, I consumed another 18 oranges. So 6 last night and 2 batches of 6 oranges today. So what I'm going to do here is carefully pour. Actually, I'm going to mix this up a little bit. So because we want to get an average of everything, we want it to make it all nice and homogeneous. That's the whole point of the 24-hour collection. And so that's all mixed up. And I'm going to very carefully pour a little bit, and I may spill a little bit. That's why I've got the towel here. Very carefully pour a little bit out. That ought to do it. And set that right here. And I'm going to go ahead now and dip the strip in. Put it there. We know that the orange was acidic, so I'll keep that over to the side right there as our reference point. And I'm going to go ahead and dip this into my urine and put it right here. And it says you're supposed to read it immediately. So that looks pretty good and green. It actually looks like it's about maybe 7.0. So let's go ahead and zoom in so we can see things more clearly. So we're going to come right in there. And we can see, if you look at the 7.0, there's a little bit of brown to it. And it's pretty close to 7.0. Might be leaning a little bit toward the bluer side of 7.2. So basically we are neutral to slightly alkaline from eating a, quote, high sugar diet, all fruit, for 24 hours after the previous 8 hours being all fruit as well. Back at the lab station for an extra bonus. I actually remembered when I was doing this, actually my wife pointed out to me that we have some different kind of pH paper as well. That other stuff I used, the first batch, only had a range from 5.5 to 8. This one goes all the way from 1 to 14. So let's do a test with this also and see if we can add a little bit of extra validity to this. So you pull these strips off of here. So let's go ahead and first dip this into the orange juice and see what we get. Okay, there we go. Dipped into the OJ. Let me put it back. And I'm going to bring this down right here. And we can pretty clearly see that there is a significant orange color to the pH test strip. And if we try to take a look there, I'm going to say it's somewhere between 3 and 4. So it clearly looked acid with the other one because it only went down to 5.5. But as it turns out, it actually looks more acid than the other one. So probably looks pretty close to 4 there. So once again, not surprisingly, the oranges themselves are acid. Okay, so second test paper with the urine sample, the 24-hour urine sample. I'm going to move the orange juice strip off to the side. Going to go ahead and take the urine sample here. Dip that in, and let's see what happens to this. I'm going to go ahead and put that down and then zoom out or zoom in so we can take a look at how this looks. So zooming in again. I would say if we compare it to the number 6, the test strip looks greener than the number 6. The 6 is a little yellower. Clearly, it's not as green as the number 8. It probably looks closest to the number 7. In fact, if I come over here and try to be careful and not move this, if I can hold this up to the number 7, I'd say that is the closest. So once again, it looks like we're actually at neutral. Here we are back at home base. So to summarize what we saw from our lab analysis, we saw that my 24-hour urine pH overall was neutral. Now, a few other things that I didn't mention previously. I also measured my urine pH each time I urinated. And what I found was that shortly after consuming the oranges, my urine pH was quite alkaline. It was about 8. Whereas if I hadn't consumed oranges for a while, my urine started to get a bit less alkaline. Now, first thing in the morning, my urine was actually acidic. And that's what we normally find because our body is constantly generating acids. Our normal metabolic waste products are acidic in nature. So then when we consume alkalizing foods with minerals such as calcium and magnesium and potassium, that helps to offset the acidity and it makes it easier for our body to maintain that 7.4 slight alkalinity in our bloodstream. So when we do that with diet, we don't strain our body's buffering mechanisms as much. During the time that I collected my 24 hours worth of urine, I consumed 18 oranges. Now, I was at a calorie deficit because those 18 oranges only add up to about 1,100 calories. So earlier today, like I mentioned, I was really involved in my research. And right now, I'm pretty darn hungry, and I'm really looking forward to having my salad tonight. Now, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say, if I had consumed 1,500 or 1,800 or 2,000 calories worth of oranges, in other words, I met all of my calorie needs during this 24-hour collection period, it's pretty safe to say I would have gone more into the alkaline range. The oranges created alkalinity. Not eating as much created more acidity because there wasn't as much alkaline stuff coming in to buffer the normal metabolic waste products. So, bottom line here, is fruit acid forming? No, it's not. It's alkalizing. Even an acid fruit like oranges. It's acidic directly, but metabolically, the effect on our body is that it's actually alkalizing. Now, part of why I was under eating or I didn't consume all the calories I needed from oranges was after a couple of batches of oranges, when I brushed my teeth, my gums were actually starting to get sore. So it was acidic to my gums, and so I wouldn't recommend high amounts of acid fruit for your teeth and gums. As far as your metabolism goes, that's fine. So I can't wait to eat my salad and get more alkalizing minerals in and not damage my gums. So, don't eat only fruit. You need lots of vegetables for optimal health. But you can eat plenty of fruit and be optimally healthy as well. So here we go. Fruit is your friend. And one of the main reasons I'm bringing this up is because there are a lot of myths out there in the world in general, as well as within the raw food community. When we start having myths, getting inaccurate information that puts hurdles and roadblocks in people's way, that can help them not achieve optimal health. And that's not so good. What typically happens then is people want to eat raw because they hear that that's good, and then they hear that fruit's bad because it's acid forming, and there's other things they say about why fruit is allegedly so bad. But then, what are you left with? You're left with greens and sprouts that you just cannot get enough calories from. And then what people do is they start eating an awful lot of fat. In fact, a very high percentage of their calories comes from fat, oftentimes much higher than they realize because they haven't actually looked at the data or done a nutrient analysis. Then they feel bogged down. Then they feel heavy. And then it doesn't work for them over the long term. And then they say, raw food didn't work for me. Veganism didn't work for me. Now I'm paleo. Now I'm eating meat. Now I feel better. And the thing is, if they had not been afraid of fruit and consumed plenty of fruit for lots of nutrients and lots of calories and easy to digest, and also consumed lots of vegetables, then they could have much more of a complete picture and they would be thriving instead of bailing. So I hope you found this video very informative and useful. And if you would like other information about raw food nutrition, about the classes we teach, and other educational opportunities, please visit our website at rawfoodeducation.com.